So many rumors going around right now about the reopening of Walt Disney World, but none caught my attention quite like the one that said that annual pass holders will likely not be able to use their annual pass in the first weeks and possibly months of Walt Disney World reopening under the new social distancing guidelines. I know, super scary to think about, but I want to stress right off the bat, this is a rumor. This is not fact. No one at Disney has said anything about this. These are just some early thoughts that we can share in together as we think about what the reopening may look like. So why do I believe that this one may be true? First one right off the bat, capacity. We've been hearing all sorts of different rumors about how full the parks will likely be when they reopen. Maybe 20%, maybe 30%, somewhere in there, the number of guests in the parks will have to be reduced for the time being. How much that's going to be? Totally up to Disney and the government to figure all of that out. But for us, this could have an impact in terms of who can go. Of course, there are a tremendous amount of annual pass holders who live all over the world, not just in Florida and not just in the United States, but many do live in Florida. It's not a bad thing, and it's also important for the economy, but that also leads to the issue: if Disney World opens and allows pass holders to just come back, would that automatically be more than 20 or 30% capacity simply because so many Floridians are going to want to rush back to the parks as soon as they open? It's a real possibility that Floridians are going to want to flock back to Walt Disney World like nothing else, and even those who live in the surrounding states and even flying in are going to want to go back either on opening day or several days after opening day. So this leads to that issue of capacity. Disney is definitely aware of this, and that's why we're hearing rumors about it now, because it's a possibility that they're going to say no annual pass holders will be allowed to come back to the parks until the capacity increases a little bit or some time has gone past, something like that. So we'll see about capacity, but there are other factors to this that we're going to get into later on in the video. Another factor that may be leading to this are the spending habits of annual pass holders versus those who purchase tickets. Many annual pass holders, including myself, I've got to admit it, have gone to the parks before, experienced their favorite ride, maybe purchased a snack, and then left the park. That's not that much spending in the parks. Is that a bad thing? Not at all. That's why you have an annual pass. You paid more for an annual pass, no doubt about it. But those who buy tickets to the parks usually, not always, but usually spend more money while they're there. Food, merchandise, clothing, even popcorn buckets are extremely popular with everyone, but if you have a ticket for just a limited amount of time at Walt Disney World, wouldn't you more than likely say, you know what, I'm only here for a limited time, let me buy that merchandise now because I'm not going to be back in the parks for who knows how long. I believe that may weigh into the equation just a bit, because like any other business, Disney now has to think about getting ahead of their own financial curve here. There's a little bit of a financial issue happening at every company around the globe, no doubt about it, and now companies are starting to think about, okay, what's the strategy for moving past this financial hurdle, a little small hurdle, but they've got to get past it. Perhaps limiting it to those who will spend more money in the parks to kind of get it through them faster will make the whole process easier. Tough to know. So yes, it is true that we may see annual pass holders blocked out for that very first week or two or something like that in the future, but rest assured, if Disney is to say, okay, annual pass holders cannot come for this first 2 weeks, whatever it is for a moment, they will no doubt be pushing the blackout dates or other dates that you have associated with your annual pass even further. So let's say our annual passes are now being extended for the amount of time that Disney World is closed. They won't start them again until you can actually go back. Now that is one scenario, one idea, but there's another idea kind of floating around in my mind. Annual pass holders, many of us, we say to ourselves, okay, we've kind of paid in advance for our tickets and we'd love to be able to experience it, shortly after Disney World opens. Is there a way around this? I've got an idea. When Universal announced that it would be opening, they sent out emails to annual pass holders letting us know that we'd have the ability to go back to the parks on certain days before it was available to the general public. A very smart idea, so that annual pass holders, especially the ones who live in the area, can go, experience it, and then not go, or maybe reduce the amount of time we would be going during the general opening. It's a great idea, and I think it will work for Universal, but I don't think that would work for Disney. The reason for that is simple. Disney is more popular, so more guests are going to want to go more frequently to the park. So I think Disney's going to have to structure that phased reopening in a different way if they do want to allow pass holders into the parks early or right around that opening time frame. Using an email invitation similar to Universal is a very good idea, but it might not be the direction Disney wants to go. Perhaps instead they say to annual pass holders, we've got these days open to you on a calendar, like Mickey's Not So Scary or A Very Merry Christmas Party, and you choose the days that you want to go in the parks over a 2-week period of time or a month period of time. And let's say over the course of 2 weeks you can choose 3 days, 5 days, whatever it is, and they have to be on certain days, any time during the day, but certain days out of that 2-week period. With this method, Disney could control how many annual pass holders are in the park on any given day, also control how many tickets are available to be sold on that day, keep the capacity at a reasonable level, and then everyone kind of schedules in advance and no one gets to kind of step over anyone else. We all get to go in when we have the opportunity to, and checking off that little calendar. If I was at Disney, that is the idea that I would use. Everyone has a fair chance to get into the parks on any given day, and let's pretend for a moment if you're buying a ticket, you can go on several consecutive days because you're buying a ticket. But if you're an annual pass holder, maybe you have to skip a day or 2 days in between visits, and the computer would control all of this. Just as an example, just different ideas so we can all go to the parks together. On top of that, there is a possibility that those with gold or silver or other annual passes that are not platinum or platinum plus may have the opportunity to choose a little bit later. Just as an example, those are usually for Florida residents or DVC members. Just to give you an idea, Disney may think about tiering them in different ways. Now on top of this, I do want to address another rumor, the idea that the resorts, the Disney resorts, will only be open to the resort guests. I do not believe for one moment that that is going to be the case. The Walt Disney World resorts are far, far more than just a place to sleep and shower. They have amazing restaurants, unbelievable views, places to get snacks, merchandise. They are in themselves almost small pieces of the Walt Disney World theme park. The parks, they've got 4 of them, but the resorts are an integral part of the Walt Disney World experience for many. So when Disney decides to open, I don't believe for one moment that the resorts will only be limited to those who are staying there with a reservation. They're also going to be thinking about those restaurants as well, and guests who are coming from far and wide to experience those restaurants, like Ohana. Now there is a possibility in the very beginning of this opening that Disney's only going to limit these restaurants to the ones that have advanced dining reservations. If that is the case, then perhaps they'll say, okay, resort guests and those with advanced dining reservations. Okay, that's a little bit different. But for them to say only resort guests, I don't believe that for a moment. Now I know what you may be thinking, Michael, what if Disney doesn't open any of the restaurants and any of the resorts? Why would they let anyone to the resort who is not a resort guest? It's a really good question, but I don't think the resort would open if the restaurants and merchandise locations and snack stops couldn't be open as well. So I think that once the resort opens, it's going to be open for many different things inside the resort. Of course, whatever Disney decides to do will be determined by the global situation and the progress that we all make through it. Hopefully it will be sooner rather than later, but I believe that plans are already underway for how Disney is going to reopen. Those are a few of my thoughts about some of the rumors about Disney's reopening. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for being a part of the magic with me today. Until next time, have a magical day.